All right, so today we're going deep on a story that's been developing in India. It's pretty devastating.
Yeah.
A cluster of mysterious deaths in a small village. A lot of kids.
Yeah, a lot of young people dying, which is always hard.
Always awful to hear about, to try to wrap our heads around.
Right.
So we're going to Badhal, India. Tiny village.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to really try to get to the bottom of what we know so far, what we don't know, and what's being done about it.
Yeah, and it is an active investigation, so.
Right.
This is definitely ongoing. We're in the middle of it, so as we're talking about it, keep in mind that new information is coming out all the time.
Absolutely, yeah. This isn't like a historical case or something. This is happening
Right
now, and we're just seeing the very beginning of it unfold.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start with the timeline. We've got December 7th. Something's happening in Badhal, India. What do we know about the initial reports, the initial events that start to raise some red flags?
So on December 7th is kind of when things started to get reported. There were multiple people in this village, primarily from 3 families, all related to each other. They were all experiencing these symptoms that seemed like food poisoning, so like vomiting,
Okay.
diarrhea, sore throat, and some of them were having difficulty breathing. So initially everyone's thinking, okay, this is, something they ate.
Right, classic food poisoning.
Classic food poisoning, maybe some bad water or something like that.
Yeah, and as someone who's experienced some pretty gnarly food poisoning in my time,
Yeah.
I can definitely see how that initial diagnosis would make sense. you know?
No. Yeah.
But things took a really tragic and really mysterious turn.
Yeah. So that's where things get strange, because what starts happening is after these initial symptoms, people start losing consciousness.
Oh, wow.
Like very suddenly. And that's when it's like, okay, this isn't just, a 24-hour bug or a stomach flu or something.
Right.
This is something else going on.
So from those initial reports on December 7th,
Mm-hmm.
how many deaths are we talking about now, and what kind of time frame?
So in total, as of right now, there's been 17 deaths.
Wow.
Most of them children. And this all happened within just a few weeks. It all started on December 7th. And within a matter of weeks, they had 17 deaths.
And to make it even more sort of, I don't know.
Mysterious.
Mysterious. Like you said, it's all within these 3 families that are related.
Yeah.
That's crazy, right?
It is very unusual. I mean, it really kind of begs the question of, is there some kind of genetic thing going on?
Right.
Maybe they're all predisposed to something, or is there an environmental factor that's really specific to them that's,
Very specific to these families.
yeah, beyond just, like I said, the contaminated water. Maybe there's something else.
So investigators obviously start looking into this. Do they find any of the usual suspects when it comes to viruses, bacteria, those kinds of things?
So they did a ton of tests and ruled out all the usual suspects. No signs of any kind of viral infection, bacterial protozoal, or zoonotic.
Zoonotic, what does that mean?
Zoonotic basically means an infection that can be transmitted from animals to humans.
Got it. Okay.
So like rabies or something like that.
Right, okay.
So nothing like that. They really kind of did a full sweep, and they're like, nope, not seeing any of the usual suspects here.
So that just deepens the mystery even more.
Exactly.
Right, because then you're
Yeah.
like, well, okay, if it's not any of these usual things,
Right.
what is it?
What is it? And that sudden loss of consciousness, that's really the thing that's tripping everyone up.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
It is. It is very scary.
So, okay, they've ruled out these infectious diseases.
Mm-hmm.
What are they looking at then?
So one of the main theories right now is contaminated water.
Okay.
They found traces of pesticides in a local spring that the villagers were using.
Oh,
And so they banned the use of that water.
okay.
But the thing is, the first deaths were reported before they even discovered that the water was contaminated.
Interesting. So that doesn't entirely line up.
It doesn't necessarily line up, so it could be a factor.
Right.
Maybe it weakened their immune systems or something.
Right, made them susceptible to something else.
Right, but it doesn't seem like it's the sole cause.
So you've got all these investigators on the ground. And what are they actually doing? Like, how does an investigation like this actually play out?
So they're doing a lot of interviews, talking to anyone who might have any information.
Okay.
They're looking at medical records, really combing through those, and they're going through the homes of the victims,
Oh, wow.
trying to find any clues. They're looking for anything that might be unusual, any commonalities between the victims.
Yeah.
Do they all use the same kind of cleaning product?
Right.
Do they all eat the same kind of food? Things like that.
Okay, so a lot of really granular detail.
Yeah, very granular, trying to find anything that stands out.
So you said it's a team of investigators who's all involved in something like this.
So you've got the police, obviously.
Okay.
You've got pathologists who are studying the bodies.
Hmm.
You've got forensic experts who are analyzing evidence. Right. And you probably have epidemiologists who are trying to figure out if there's a pattern to how the illness is spreading.
So it's a really big undertaking.
It is. It's a huge team effort.
Wow. And, while they're trying to piece together all of this, what's the government doing? I mean, this is a pretty serious situation.
Yeah, so the government has declared Badhal a containment zone,
Okay.
which basically means they're trying to prevent the illness from spreading.
Mm-hmm.
They've also moved anyone who had close contact with the victims to a government hospital just to monitor them and make sure they're okay.
Right.
And they're providing food and water to all the residents just to make sure that there's no further risk from contaminated sources.
Right. So really trying to control the situation.
Yeah, really trying to get a handle on it.
Make sure it doesn't spread any further.
Exactly.
Now, amidst all this tragedy, there is a glimmer of hope. There are a few people who got sick but actually recovered.
Yeah, that's right.
5 people, including a 1-year-old baby.
It's amazing.
They were admitted to the hospital on December 12th, and they all recovered. So are investigators looking at those cases and trying to figure out what was different about them?
Definitely. Those cases are super important because they might hold some really important clues.
Right.
Understanding how those people recovered, what treatments they responded to, what their blood work looks like, all of that could give them insight into, what this illness actually is and maybe why some people are more vulnerable to it than others.
So maybe those people have some kind of, genetic difference or something.
Exactly.
That makes them more resistant.
Or maybe they just weren't exposed to whatever the cause is.
Right.
To the same degree as the other people who got sick.
Okay, so a lot of unknowns.
Yeah.
But those cases are really important to pay attention to.
Definitely.
So just to recap, we've got this cluster of deaths in a really small village.
Mm-hmm.
Symptoms that initially look like food poisoning,
Mm-hmm.
but then this really scary, sudden loss of consciousness. Contaminated water is probably part of the equation,
It seems likely.
but the timeline's weird, and those recoveries are kind of throwing a wrench in things as well.
Yeah, it's a really complex puzzle.